Okay, so 20 minutes are up, and now we're gonna shape these. So really the goal when you're making dough is what you need to do is you need to develop the gluten. And you know what gluten is it's actually two different proteins that are in the wheat. And when you knead the dough, what you do is you develop this gluten. And if you think of gluten as like these elastic bands, you know what you need to do is they create a matrix, and the stronger that matrix is, the more the dough is gonna hold the bubbles of gas when when it rises, and that's going to determine how big the holes are in the crumb of the dough. So really, what happens here is once you have formed that gluten and you cut the dough, that gluten starts to kind of bunch up, and it's hard to stretch the dough. So we do the pre-shape step so that the gluten can then relax again, and we can do the final shaping. So again, what I'm going to do here is I've got my oblong, and you see how easily that kind of stretched into a longer piece, and I'm going to do the exact same shaping method as before. We make kind of like a little divot down the middle. I'm going to fold one side into the middle like that, just kind of pat it down. Then I'm going to fold the other side over like this. I'm going to do the same thing. So this is what we would call the seam side of the dough. I'm going to flip it over, tuck the end under. You see I get like kind of this long, thin baguette shape. And you try to keep them as even as you can. And shaping is something that takes a long time to kind of get a feel for. Your breads might not look amazingly shaped the first couple you make. I still, they're not always great, but the bread's still going to taste good. And so what you want here, again, you want to avoid adding too much flour and just kind of pinching the seam shut on the bottom. And you want it to be nice and smooth. I'm going to put it on I've got my peel here with some parchment paper. If you don't have a peel like this one, you can just use like a sheet pan, like flip it over, put the parchment right on there. This is going to prevent the dough from sticking. And we'll do the same thing with the other two. Same process. So again, you watch, take this, flip it over, divot in the middle, kind of stretch it out, fold into the middle, and then you could fold over on the other side. Again, you're getting a little sticking. You use your scraper to kind of get it off. Flip it, tuck your ends in. Flip it over, pinch your seam shut. Again. Do the best you can with that. Got two. One more. A little more flour. Again, you see how nice this dough is. Now, the more, you don't want to play with it too much, because the more you do this, the more the dough will start to tighten up again. So just kind of be gentle. You can see all those air bubbles in there. And then what we're gonna do after we get these on all shaped, we're gonna put them back on the pan, cover them back up with the towel again. We're gonna let these rise for about an hour. And after about 45 minutes, you're gonna preheat your oven to 475 degrees. I also have, I'm gonna bake these on stones in the oven. So if you have your stone, you want to put it in there. If you're not going to be baking on stones, you'll probably bake on a sheet pan. So you put your stones in the oven now before you start heating it up. Sheet pan, you're not going to preheat. There you go. So I've got those ready to go. I'm just going to cut my parchment. This is going to just make it easier later to slide these into the oven. do, I'm just gonna take my wet cloth, cover this up. You can tell these cloths have seen better days, but they still do the trick. I'm actually gonna use 2 of them. They're both wet. Keep our dough nice and moist here on the top, and that's gonna help promote that rising when it gets into the oven. And that's it. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna wait about an hour for those to rise, and again in about 45 minutes you're gonna preheat your oven to 475 degrees. Okay, so we'll come back in about an hour.